Good afternoon, racing fans. Welcome back to the channel, proudly sponsored by betting.co.uk. So we're back with episode 3 of my Stable Tour series. And as you can see, I am joined once again by none other than Ben Paulin. And Ben, we've managed to match clothing today. But how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Joe. How are you doing?
Very well, very well. I'm sure it's getting exciting this time of year, Ben. What's the mood like up at Norton? Are the team getting ready for action? Not far to go now until the Persian War and a few other meetings as well.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, they're all back in pretty much now, and it's been quite wintry weather to be honest since we've been back. This is quite nice. Currently sat in a bit of sunshine, we've been missing for most of the summer. But no, it's good to see them all back. They're in good order, and yeah, we'll be ready hopefully towards the back end of October.
Makes a nice change for us to have a little bit of nice weather. But like you said, nice bit of good ground, good to soft ground to start the season off as well. But Ben, I mean, we'll start going off into a few of the runners in a moment. But I must say, I had to go through the website and really struggle to narrow it down because you're a growing yard now. You've got so many more runners each year. But that can only be a credit to yourself and the team being an improving and a thriving yard. I mean, do you feel like that yourself? Of course, you're getting some really nice results with the horses that you've got too.
Yeah, it is a lovely position. We're by no means, resting on our laurels. We've always got to try and improve and keep going the right way. And to compete at the top, you've got to have some very nice horses. But I suppose this season feels a lot more like we've got some proper novice chasers and some nice mature handicappers. So across the board, we seem to have sort of strengthened up, and that's all come from the bottom. We still buy as many stores as we possibly can each year, and bringing them through slowly, and it takes time. And we went through a period 3, 4 years ago where things didn't go our way, and COVID and whatever have you, and we sort of really had to rebuild from there a little bit. But it's good to see them in good order at the moment, and we've got hopefully some nice types for the season ahead.
Is part of that also due to the move to Norton? You've got a really nice operation up on Norton Hill. I mean, you've expanded a lot even in that sense. Has that been a help to you regarding your training regime and getting your horses fit and ready for the right occasions?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Since we moved to Norton, there seems to have been a massive upturn in, I suppose, the consistency.
Yeah.
The health of the horses seems to have been much better, and that goes hand in hand. The more results you get, the sort of, I suppose, the more interested parties give you a call and see what the score is. So yeah, Norton's been a massive turning point in our career, and it's going at the moment the right way, and hopefully it will remain doing so.
Definitely. I mean, it's like you said as well. It's been nice to see you getting a lot more big owners, more consistently adding horses to the string. I mean, in that sense as well, we'll start off with the Jukebox Man then, Ben. Of course, he's a lovely 6-year-old owned by Harry Redknapp. But before we go on to perhaps his targets and how his season went last year, how has he been at home? How has he summered? Is he looking bigger and stronger again this season?
Yeah, he's a magnificent beast these days. When we bought him from Ireland, he really was quite narrow and weak as a 4-year-old,
Okay.
and we gave him plenty of time to sort of come into his own as a bumper horse. And last year, obviously, we campaigned him a little bit more uh, in sort of towards the top end, and he came through it all with flying colours. So he looks $1 million. He's a big, strong lad. He's working away nicely. Not that we've done any fast work, but he's just moving very well, and we're pleased with. We couldn't be happy with how he looks and the way he's going at the moment.
Excellent. I mean, he had a really good year last year. Of course, he won his first 2 hurdle races, and then he finished third in the Challow. Heartbreak for you at Cheltenham, obviously getting done on the line. But I suppose then going to Aintree and finishing runner-up then to Dancing City, just you must have been proud of him. And I suppose it makes you, it gives you a real sense that he's a very genuine top-class horse as well, I suppose. I mean, you can't be more proud of him, surely, despite obviously the very near miss at the homeland.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I thought his Challow run was great. That was brutal ground that
Yeah.
day. And after the race, it's embarrassing. I can't remember the name of the winning horse that Nichols trains.
Captain T.
And Sorry,
Captain
who
Teague.
was it?
Captain Teague.
Yeah, exactly, Captain Teague. And I sort of got the feeling that both Paul Nicholls and Tom Malone were disappointed that he didn't win easier.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, I think you might in time realise that was probably quite a strong form.
Yes.
And our lad coped with the conditions that day. I don't think he was seen to his best quite. Um, but after that, he went to Cheltenham and he ran a mighty race and he was unlucky to get pipped on the line. But I think that brought him to everyone's attention. And then, of course, he went and backed it up and it was another brilliant run at Aintree. And, you know, the Aintree race didn't quite work out how I expected it to. They went, him and Phil Rowley horse, Kintara, sort of took each other on for a long way and softened each other up for dancing in the city or whatever it is to come and nab us. But I firmly believe he's top class. He's as good as I've had for a little while. And I also think a drop back in trip might see him well. Going 3 miles, there's no real need to go 3 miles unless you have to. I think I thought he was probably an out and out stayer, and probably in hindsight, he's got a little bit more speed and class than they gave him credit for. So a drop back 2.5 miles to start the season will be in order.
So he does look like a proper genuine sort. Like you said, he's probably got that rare combination of speed and stamina. I know he's out of the Fleming's Firth Dam as well. So you're going to look perhaps down sort of the intermediate trip to start him off this season. Is that probably going to be the plan
Yeah,
going
I
forward?
think so. You've got various options back end of um, October. There's the Carlisle race. You could go up to there. You've got he wouldn't be ready for Chepstow if you didn't go there. There's all sorts of options for him early November, and then we'll see where we are and whether we go to Newbury or Cheltenham. I think we'll get him a little bit further down the line, but it'll be 2.5 miles, and we'll go from there.
Will you have a long-term target of the turners at Cheltenham then, or is that again still dependent on what happens up to
No,
the
I
could
I
go up?
wouldn't. I don't think he doesn't see 3 miles out, and I think he will end up a proper 3 miler.
Okay.
I just feel that we've got the ability and the speed to drop back to 2.5, and so we'll probably drop back for now. You might. Well, let's see how the early season goes, but the Feltham or something like that. I think he's a thorough Grade One performer, especially in novice company, and the way he jumps and the improvement in him physically, if we can keep him sound and healthy, I'd like to think he's going to be competing in some of these better novice chases, and whether it's 2.5 miles, whether we go 3 miles Christmas on, who knows? But
Okay.
he'll sort of tell us where he is. But he's a very very straightforward horse, a horse that does it all as he should, and he's come back in great order.
Lovely. Like you said, Ben, really nice to have exciting sorts on your hands as well. Well, we'll move on to another very exciting type for this season, and a horse that a lot of people are talking about for the coming season. That's Diva Luna, a lovely 5-year-old mare. She's by Diamond Boy, who I think is a very underrated sire, and she just looks really smart. Just like I asked about the Jukebox Man, how has she been over the summer? Is she another that's grown into her figure a little bit more?
Yeah, massively. So she went to Luca Morgan's for summer this year,
Okay.
and she did really, really well. Physically, she looks a bigger, stronger filly. She's obviously done nothing wrong, winning at Market Raisin and then winning the Ancient Mares Bumper. She's very, very straightforward. There's no side to her, and I just feel that she's pretty much unextended to win both those. She hasn't really had to battle too hard. I think when she needs to battle, she will. But very much looking forward to her because we schooled her at the back end of last season, and having come from the point-to-point field, Aidan Fitzgerald trained her for Lynn and Angus McLennan, and he does a lot of work with youngsters for them. And he trained her beautifully to run in one point-to-point. She finished second, and we were thrilled to be sent her. And hopefully, the sky's the limit. What route we take is yet to be decided. Angus and Lynn, we're actually having a meeting this weekend. But you've got probably the Newbury listed mare's novice hurdle in the November meeting at the Coral meeting would probably be the first big target. Whether we run once before then, we probably will, just the mare's novice somewhere. And then after that, we will campaign her accordingly. I mean, it's a bit of a frustration because the mare's novice hurdle at the festival is currently a grade two. And so obviously if you go and win any grade twos en route, you get penalised for it come March, which is a
Oh,
bit of a shame really, because you'd really like it to be, whether it's worthy of a grade one, I don't know, but you want these championship races, you don't really want to be going there and picking up penalties when it comes to meeting the Irish.
sure, sure.
So we'll think about how we campaign her, but she's a very, very straightforward mare. She jumps well and she's in great order.
Excellent, excellent. Am I right in saying when she ran at Aintree, Keelan lost the whip as well, but he still won going away that day, didn't he? So, I mean, you don't often see horses still manage to pull away from a field when they've when the jockeys lost the whip in the running.
No, she's. I don't actually know how talented she is because, as I said,
Okay.
she's never really had to try that hard. But as long as she keeps winning races like that, we'll be happy.
Healthy problems, Ben. Healthy problems, and it would be nice to see her reach the mare's novice hurdle because we've had three British winners in the last 3 years. You never know, Ben. You could be the fourth one in a row for us. You know, on this side of the water, it would be nice to see. But
We'll be
she definitely
thrilled.
got loads of the class anyway. So like you said, we'll see how she gets on through the season. Okay, so we'll move on to oh, you've got a lovely 5-year-old here actually, Ben. Handstands. He won his first three novice hurdles. He then got chucked into the deep end at Cheltenham. I'd love to see that as well. And finished sixth. He's a really strong traveller. Is he the sort that you'd send straight over fences for this coming season?
Yeah, he will. He'll go straight over fences. He'd actually, he'd won his point in November before we bought him. So he'd had a long season, and Cheltenham was just one run too many.
Okay.
He couldn't have won his first two any better, any more smoothly. And when Ben Jones had been riding him, and Ben was banned and Keenan was banned for the Sydney Banks, so Harry Cobden got on him and was really quite taken with how he did it. And he said he didn't really have to. He did it very much in second gear, and I'm hopeful he can go on again. Now he goes chasing. His targets are very much set out. I think we're going to aim at the Rising Stars at Wincanton,
Brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
beginning in November, and then probably on to the John Frankham at Newbury. That's the plan with him. He again, he's been a huge improver over the summer. He again was a very lightweight, sort of weakish horse last season, and we couldn't believe he did as well as he did. Um, and he's just turned into a proper bullock of a horse now, and very excited for seeing him go over fences.
Really hoping you were saying that. I'm definitely really taken just by the way he moves. He's a proper gorgeous sort, isn't he? Long-term
Yeah,
target not quite set in stone for him yet. Then you're going to get him out for the first two novice
no.
chases and then take it from there.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, he's the type of horse that I think he's a 2.5 miler. I think he's
Okay.
got plenty of speed. He doesn't. I don't. He's not. But at the same point, he's not a 2 miler. I don't think either. So we'll
Okay.
be sitting around the 2.5 mile mark and hoping he can progress over fences.
Cool. Fine. Another exciting one on your hands there, then, Ben. We will move on to personal ambition. 5-year-old with an official rating of 131. Again, one of my favorite horses in your yard. I just think he's a really genuine sort. Won three of his first four starts, which included obviously the grade two at Kelso. Again, you must have quite high hopes for him this coming season, and probably another we're going to see go chasing, I imagine.
Yeah, very much so. He just he was a great big rangy thing last season, and I think he's always going to be that sort of build. He's done well for his summer, but hopefully he'll respect fences a little bit more than he respected hurdles. He was grand once he got going, but he was fairly confident in him
Okay.
in if what's what right word, he was fairly obnoxious at his first few
Okay.
hurdles in most races, and just sort of used to take them with him. And obviously, you can't do that over fences, but we did school him over fences back end of last season. He jumped very well. Um, he has a little bit more speed than you could see. I could see him starting off over two again over
Okay.
hurdles. But he's a very very talented horse. He got stuck in the mud and nothing really went his way at Sandown. And after Sandown, obviously Kelso went his way, and then just like so many of them, they've been campaign pretty busy early season, and I think Aintree was just a run too many.
Okay.
We felt that with a few of our novices. Jukebox was the sort of exception that just sort of kept turning up, but personal ambition wasn't himself at Aintree, and that's fine. He'd had a long season, but he'll be ready sort of back end October, I would imagine, to get going.
Okay, perfect. Like you said though, with them having possibly, like you said, potentially a run too many that season, it just gives them a lot more scope for improvement again this coming year, doesn't it? Like you said, if you're schooling them plenty as well, I suppose the experience can't do them any harm, can it?
No, no. The more schooling and the more education you can get into these horses, the better. I mean, actually, the three we've spoken about so far are all ex-pointers, so they've probably jumped plenty of fences in their time. But no, they're nice horses, and it's a division we're probably going to be relatively competitive, I would hope.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, Ben, we'll move on to Leader in the Park, a lovely 6-year-old walk in the park gelding. He won at Doncaster before finishing fourth at Cheltenham behind Peaky Boy. I think that race is going to turn out to be some pretty strong form actually as well. Again, another nice big rangy sort. I assume he's another novice chaser in the making this coming season.
Yeah, he will go novice chasing. He was at the start of the season. He was the apple of our eye,
Okay,
and probably the standout novice going into the sort of autumn. But for one reason or another, he just picked up the odd sort of snotty nose,
okay,
and then he came back from a couple of his runs just a little bit sore, not lame as such, but just a bit stiff and and,
okay.
and awkward, and just wasn't taking his racing overly well. And we worked away with back massage and chiropractors and all the rest of it, and he was never lame as such, but he just never quite showed that flamboyance that he did in the early part of the season. And so we were a little bit bewildered, and thankfully his owners um, bought into what I had seen, and that we weren't seeing the real leader. Um, and so we sent him off for a bone scan at the end of the season,
Okay.
and it came back with signs that he'd obviously had a broken rib,
Oh,
so a fractured rib, one of his front ribs, right where the girth would go. So every time we pulled the girth up tight, you can imagine it made him
sure,
very
sure.
sore and just not able to move himself properly. And I think that is now fully healed, and I hope we see the real leader in the parks. But he's always been, he was always going to be a chaser. So we'll crack on over fences this season, and hopefully he's the sort that could climb up through the ranks through novice handicap chasing and maybe end up as a proper novice later in the season.
Okay, okay. So I guess you've only just scratched the surface with Leader in the Park then, Ben. Obviously, like you said,
Oh yeah, yeah. He was a great big backfoot individual anyway, and he'll improve again for another year. He's the sort that we'll be looking to in the future as a proper 3 mile chaser in time.
love it, love it. I'll get him in the notebook then, Ben. We will move on to another one of the Radford owned horses, Fiercely Proud. Again, he's another good horse. He's run in some nice races. He was placed in 2 grade 2s, finishing close up behind Jericho de Repene and then Lump Sum
Lump
as
sum.
well. He looks another prospect for fences this year. Um, have you got an early season target for him if he's going chasing, of course?
Yeah, so he's actually going to stay hurdling, I think,
Okay.
for this season. There's a lot of We just feel there's a lot of stones unturned in this lad's
Okay.
hurdling career. Um, I firm up at Donny when he finished third behind Lump Sum and Jericho. I just felt that he could have gone on and won that race, and it was first time he'd been in a ding dong, and he just bit green and sort of
Okay.
half backed out of it a bit, and then obviously second at Kempton, the Dovecote, and I just felt that he wasn't his electric self in the Dovecote or then at Sandown
Sure. Okay.
in the novice championship. And whether he's better early or not, I don't know. Hopefully he'll follow through this season. But I do think, excuse me, he's very good fresh. And he will go probably either to Kempton or Ascot in late, well, mid October, early November, as a prep race for the Greatwood. I think he's going to be very much a horse that can feature. He's off a nice mark. I think he'll need a run to strip completely fit because he's a very good workhorse. So
Okay.
probably find it hard to get him iron hard at home. So we'll probably give him one run to just put him spot on. But hopefully the Greatwood would be his early season target.
I was hoping when you said you were going to keep him hurdling, I was hoping you were going to say the Greatwood's going to be the target for sure. Is he another horse that's improved size wise? Again, 5-year-old going on 6, or is he already sort of
Mm,
frame? Because it
no, he
hurdling.
does look really well,
Okay.
and he's done brilliantly for his summer. He's he was actually a like he's bred for the flat.
Okay.
So, and he was a juvenile bumper winner for us at Cheltenham. So yeah, he's always filling out, but I think it's more the fact that he just wasn't quite on his A game those last couple of runs
Cool.
of the season. And I think Lump Sum's actually a good horse, but
Mhm.
I think it'll be nice to lock horns again at some point in the near future and see how we get on. But the first day out, I know we beat probably not an awful lot. I mean, saying that the Harry Derham horse that finished second, I think at Hereford has gone on to be
Yeah.
okay, but it was all second gear. He was electric speed, and it was proper 2 mile attitude towards the game. Whenever you needed him, he was just there. And towards the end of the season, he just wasn't quite in the same vein. So I'm looking forward to getting him going again.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. There's a really nice bumper horse you've got called. Is it Roycer? Roysse.
Royce, yeah,
Royce. Very
Royce.
intrigued by this one.
So were we. He was very green and backward at Wincanton, travelled very well and didn't know what he was doing. He came off the bridle, but did it very, very well at Newbury. His job was done really then for the season. He wasn't the sort of horse he was, great big chasing type. He didn't need to go for any more bumpers, I didn't feel. But he's come back in looking $1 million. He's again a really big, imposing horse. And he jumps beautifully. So we're looking forward to getting him going novice hurdling. He'd be a proper. He's got bags of speed, so he'll start off over 2 for sure.
Perfect. Just a quick question on bumper horses. How do you decide they get ridden tactically in bumpers, or do you just try and get them into a smooth rhythm? Do you just try and make sure they're racing within themselves, or if you feel like you've got the best horse in the race, do you ride them prominently? Is there a lot of tactical work that goes into bumper horses in that sense, or do you just want to make sure they're within their comfort zone for the early stages?
Um, I'm very happy to ride a bumper horse positively as
Okay,
long as they've got the right mind. If they're enthusiastic individuals, excuse me, then
so
I will happily drop them in and let them, follow around. But I find bumpers last or first sort of thing. I think
okay,
being in amongst it can become quite messy, and if you've got one that's a bit keen, they can get lit up. And
okay.
so last or first, but if they've got the mental capability just to lob along in front, sometimes you ride the race to suit yourself, and our horses seem to know roughly what's going on at the finish, so it's quite easy to dictate. But at the same time, if you've got one that's a bit keen, we'll drop them right out.
Okay, okay, fine. Just wasn't sure, obviously, because bumpers are there to give them the education for when they go
Yeah.
herding, etc. So, but yeah, Royce, nice horse to look forward to. Now, there's a couple on your website that I'm very intrigued by. One being Meet Me by the Sea, because JP McMahon, is this the first horse you've had with for JP?
We've had a couple before. Um, World Premier was a horse that only managed to win one race, and
Of course, I
and a
remember.
filly that was a bit hot headed. So we've had a couple, but this is the first point to pointer that we've bought and had sent to us by Mr. McManus, and it's a nice position to have him back in the yard, because it's, they're a great outfit, and everybody would love to train for the team in Ireland, because they're just genuinely great people that understand the industry and steeped with history, and so hopefully he's a good one.
Of course. I mean, he was second at Monk's Grange in his point-to-point debut. Do you know much about them at this point, or is this just a learning curve for him, send him down the bumper route and go from there?
No, I haven't spoken to Frank yet about what we'll do,
Okay.
but he was second in his only start in a point-to-point. The horse that won the race went on to make Sellers top lot at Aintree, and I think they rate quite highly.
Yes.
And this lad, with now he's arrived, he's just a great big, gorgeous, staying, chasing type. Great mind, good movement, and very straightforward.
Perfect.
Whether or not he's a speed machine, I don't know, but he's a lovely horse to have, and I can see him being I could see him being a nice horse in the future at some point.
Perfect. Moving on to another Lady Dolverton horse. You've got Howrisk Desobo, another new addition to the yard. She's been a really great supporter, obviously, of you and your team at Naunton. Do you know much about this one just yet?
Yeah, he's. I went over and saw him. We bought him privately,
Okay,
and he was. We. I got someone to sit on him and give him a piece of work, and we were quite taken by what he did.
brilliant. Good,
He
good.
was, just a. He's not an overly big horse. He's more of a sharper type. He'd
Okay.
be 16-1 probably, but a very nice mover, very good brain, jumps very well, and look forward to seeing him out. He probably. I'll have to speak to Lord and Lady Dolverton, but I would imagine that he'll probably run the bumper first up, just for a bit of experience. But
Sure.
he's got the mindset that he could go novice hurdling fairly quickly afterwards.
Perfect. And another nice new recruit, Ben. There's loads of them coming in. You've got Mambo number 5. Of course, he's only a 3-year-old. She's just a juvenile that came from France. Do you know much about him as well at the moment? Have you seen too much of?
Yeah, so he's been in the yard now for a month or so, 3 weeks, I suppose. Once we bought him, we gave him a month off and then did some flat work with him. He's he's everything you could wish for to look at. He's a great physical. He's a brilliant mover, and a very, very good brain. I cannot tell you how, with his size, you can't believe he's run 3 times in France
Okay.
already in some decent races, and you're surprised he even knew how to get from A to B over a hurdle, let
All
alone
right.
run the
Okay.
race. So we hope he's a star of the future. But there's no rush with this horse at all. He's a maiden at the moment, so he's a juvenile, and he could go and win a run of the mill juvenile standing on his head. Of course he could, but with his size and scope, you just wonder whether it might better just to drift along through the early part of the season, and if he's ready, in Christmas or just after, might run him in a decent juvenile, and if he won it, great. We'll go and have a look at maybe Aintree or whatever. But if he doesn't win it, then you could almost see yourself put him away until next year. So he's got a full year as a novice hurdler
Cool.
next year. But the sky is hopefully the limit with this fella. You don't get to buy horses like that very often, and we're thrilled to have him.
I get the feeling you're quite excited about this one, Ben, for sure, for sure. So, like you said,
Mm.
no need to rush them. Give them time to the experience things, and hopefully, it comes good for you as well.
Yeah.
Ben, I won't keep you too much longer. I'm going to give you 3 horses, and I just want a couple of sentences from you because they're a couple of my favourites. Shake 'em up, Harry, the 10-year-old. Is he going to be aimed at Cheltenham again this year?
Yeah, I'd imagine so. We'll probably end up trying to go back to the plate. In the meantime, we'll have a look. He could line up in a paddy power, and he'd go off, right up there in the betting.
Yes.
But he is 10, and we could look to just find some of the veterans races. He could quite easily go and bob around in a couple of veterans races and maybe fill the coffers, and then look towards um, making a route back towards Cheltenham. But yeah, I slightly feel that although this lad is 10, he's not an old 10-year-old. He
Okay.
moves and looks and behaves like a 6-year-old, and
Yes.
um, it's more the fact that the Veterans Series could be just a nice opportunity for him without him having to probably go to the depths straight away. He had a busy end to last season. It'd be nice to start off slower, but that's not to say he won't have a Paddy Power entry. But I'll probably have to discuss it with Harry Redknapp at some point.
Big fan of shaking up Harry. And another one I love, it just seems to love his racing, is Mole Court.
Yeah, he's in great old form. He actually, not by not that we designed it, he's ended up running perfectly well in a couple of summer races. Got a bit keen, just looked like he needed a bit of a holiday, so we chucked him out for a month, and he will go straight back to Cheltenham for the race he won in October, the Amateur
Brilliant.
Chase, or he could go to Aintree for the race over the national fences just the week after. The what is it? The not the top of the Beecher. So yeah, one of those as a starting point, and then he's. I don't think he's badly handicapped. I just think he's changing as a horse.
Okay.
He seems to be much more enthusiastic in his races, and whereas I always used to think he was a 3 miler, I think he could quite easily come back to 2.5 on a bit of softer ground. So we might do that.
Excellent. I love him. I love him. Really, I like it when he goes from the front as well. He just seems to bowl along, do his own thing. Really likable
Yeah.
horse. And then finally, Henry's friend, Ben. Again, quite talented, really. Probably haven't got to the bottom of him just yet, perhaps.
No, definitely haven't. I mean, he's just a lovely horse that jumps well, travels, and tries hard. He's going to go to the Coral Gold Cup at Newbury,
Brilliant. Excellent.
so we'll find a race over hurdles for him as a prep run. But that's very much his target, and I think he'll be a lively chance and a horse that will suit the track, and the trip will be ideal. And he's still very much a progressive horse. He again was, although he went chasing last year, he's developed massively over the summer, and we're in a good place, and we're very happy with how he looks.
Excellent, excellent, Ben. It's so nice to see you've got such a good string to go to battle with this year. And perhaps finally, just one horse to follow. Doesn't have to be your best horse, just one we can have a good bit of fun following, might pick up a win or two throughout the season. Who have you got? Who you fancy in that sense?
There's a nice horse called One Way West that
Oh,
finished
yeah.
second 3 times and then fell on Boxing Day and just picked up an injury. So he remains a maiden. I don't know if he's a world beater by any stretch, but
Okay.
he's a horse that I think will win plenty of races.
Perfect. He was actually on my short list as well, so I'm glad you mentioned him for that reason there, Ben, as well. Well, look, Ben, thank you so much for your time again this year. I really appreciate it. Of course, it's a really busy time for you and the team up at Norton, so thanks so much for your time today. Great to hear about all of the exciting recruits that you've got going, and obviously the new horses to go and do battle with this year. I mean, you must be ever so excited for this
Yeah,
season.
very, very excited. And hopefully we can unearth some more that we don't know about at the moment.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Ben, as I said, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I won't take up any more of your time. But again, I really do wish you the best of luck this year and hopefully plenty of winners at Cheltenham to come, obviously, for this season too.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, Joe. Thank you very much for
Thanks a
having
lot,
us.
Ben. Thank you.